Operation Lal Killa. General Thorat was a Maharashtrian from Kolhapur. He was the Eastern Army commander. He conducted an exercise in Lucknow. That time the Eastern Army Command was in Lucknow. And he predicted to the last T what is going to happen. He said 20 अक्टूबर को आएंगे 1962. This is happening in 1959. Though Lal Killa was in 61, but in 1959 he visited along. My father's battalion was there. My dad remembers this. In fact, my book opens with this. He said 20 अक्टूबर को आएंगे. They will come from here. They will come from here. They will come from here. These are the routes. This is what is going to happen. How did the man know all this? And in fact, when I started working on this book, his son, Yashwant Thorat, was that time the regional director of RBI in Delhi. I had just filmed the Kargil war. I had just come back, and they had asked me to come and, talk about the Kargil war. And I saw his nameplate, and he looked a bit like the general's photograph. So I asked him. I said, "Are you related to General Thorat?" And he said, "Yes, he was my father." Now, I had heard about this Operation Lal Killa, so I actually became quite pally with him, and I said, "Look, have you heard of this exercise?" He says, "Yes, I've heard of it, but there's no documentary evidence of it." So I asked him, I said, where did the general's baggage go after the war? He said, वो सब कोल्हापुर पे है, वहाँ पे वो ऐसे वो डब्बों में रखा हुआ है. And in the army, we all families, we all have the same way of packing, because we move very often. Every 2 years you're moving. So you have these wooden boxes with number 1, 2, 3, 4, and your dad's first going to put all his official documents in box number 1, then comes the rest of the stuff, etc. So I asked him, I said, "Sir, box number 1 खोल के देखो." And they opened it. And they found this file called Operation Lal Killa. It was lying exactly where I had told Yashwant, वहाँ देखना वहीं निकलेगी. निकल आई. अब ये रिपोर्ट आ गई हमारे पास. We now knew what had been told to the government of India. They had not acted on it. But what was bugging me the most was that Thorat, again, it's not Akashvani. कहाँ से आया ये? So again, I went back to Thorat and to Yashwant and I said, "Look, there must be notebooks here." Because there were a lot of mathematical calculations in the columns with pencils. So I told him again, I said, "Look," he said, and sure enough, we found that army commander's diaries and all that, and usme, there were a lot of figures, there were a lot of maths. And we were not being able to interpret them. And somehow, instinctively, I knew this was all related to his calculations. That how can a man get the dates right here? It's as specific as that. And one day I was sitting in my study. I showed these books to my dad. I showed them to a lot of other generals. Nobody could make sense of it. And one day I was sitting in my study when my elder daughter came in and asked me, "Dad, did you do probability in school, in maths?" And I couldn't wait for her to leave because suddenly the penny had dropped. And I looked at those figures again and applied the probability theorems on them and arrived at the same dates. It was as simple as that. So the warnings were there, and yet when the attack came, we had the wrong people there, we got completely wiped out.